Hey everyone, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Teal.
And we are
Phoenix Down.
RPG. Today, we are going to talk about this book. I went to the hobby store, our friendly local gaming store, not too long ago. We picked this up, and despite kind of having a sick weekend where I'm sick and she's sick, we've been combing through this book, and there's so much good stuff, and we just gotta talk about it a little bit.
And of course, I wanted to start with my favorite class.
So, we're going to be talking about sorcerers. And when you talk about sorcerers, you gotta talk not only about how cool they are, but the source of their power. What? That was totally legit. Alright, so let's just hop right in.
Let's do it.
So, Xanathar's Guide, there is a wealth of new options for players and DMs.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, this book doesn't look all that thick, like in comparison to some of their other books, but they actually have a lot in here, and a lot of this is stuff that they've been releasing over like the past year or so with a series of articles online called Unearthed Arcanas. Then players gave their feedback, and this is the final version, the official version. Everything before, playtest, this, legal.
And the 3 new sorcerer abilities, or hats, were released on Unearthed Arcana before, and I've played one of them.
So, a lot of the subclasses were released all together. This is one of the ones where they kind of piecemealed them into other Unearthed Arcanas. So you had like sorcerers that were in like one that was all about underwater, and I think they had like maybe, I don't know, I'm thinking Minotaurs. Minotaurs I think were with the Shadow Sorcerers. Shadow Sorcerers were with the Underdark stuff, and then they had like a big sorcerer one, which was like, oh, we're releasing 4 more classes, and it was like Favored Soul. I think that's what it was called. Yeah, Favored Soul. And then like Phoenix Sorcery, which I was really sad didn't make it into the book, because, I mean, Phoenix.
Who doesn't want to be a Phoenix, right?
And then like some elemental ones, which were really cool, stone and water, but they didn't make the cut. And Xanathar was they kind of sandwiched in the Storm Sorcerer, which originally was an Unearthed Arcana, but then they threw it in the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, and now it's in Xanathar. So
it's had a couple reprints.
Yeah, it's the same as it is in Sword Coast, but it's different than it was in Unearthed Arcana. We'll get to it. Mixed feelings.
That's for sure. We've been debating it quite a bit.
Yeah, so let's first talk about what's one of my favorite features of the books is they add like these origins and like a couple like random tables at the beginning. So say you don't know exactly what you want to play, but oh, well, I want to play a sorcerer. And then you're like, well, what does that mean? If you don't have a backstory, they got these lovely charts. I'll get you a picture to throw up on there.
They give you some really good plot hooks that you can use to create your backstory with rolling.
Yeah.
That way it also helps if you always tend to play the same type of character. It can help you break out of that.
I don't know what you're talking about. I never play edgelords. I don't want to talk to people. God, I'm so cool.
The cool lone wolf.
Why don't people heal me?
If you weren't a jerk.
Well, now there's an option for that person that doesn't get heals because they can just heal twice as much as a cleric. We're going to get to it in a second. So yeah, they have arcane origins in here, and they even kind of throw in the book that, hey, maybe you as a player don't really fully understand where your power comes from. And I kind of like that idea. It's like, oh, I'm coming of age, I have this power, I don't understand it. I think that's an interesting idea.
I'm so mysterious.
So the DM can roll covertly that origin, or maybe they just use this as inspiration. Sometimes when we make characters, we like to kind of look at the charts and go, ooh, that would be interesting, and then we might roll on something else, but we don't necessarily roll everything, because it forces you to play people you didn't intend to when you sat down. No edgelords.
Plenty of those already.
So what I thought was really interesting about these arcane origins is most of them are kind of negative in a way. Same with like the reactions, the supernatural marks, the signs of sorcery. This whole idea that the magic is kind of like bubbling from within, and you can't fully control it, and it's going to come out in some way, in some visible fashion. And I think a lot of people can relate to feeling different and not really understanding why they are different, and like the sorcerer is like the ultimate manifestation of that.
The misunderstood.
Yeah, and so it's...
In fact, I think it'd be fun to roll our own origins for our sorcerer.
Just want to roll?
Yeah. Grab a
okay.
D6.
There's a D6 for you.
All right. We're going to start with the arcane origins. Where did our sorcerer get their power?
4.
A 4.
Oh, this is good.
Oh, this is one of my favorite ones, actually. Your birth was prophesied in an ancient text, and you are foretold to use your power for terrible ends.
I mean, this is interesting if you as the player knows it, because it's just like, oh, I know I'm going to do something terrible. Does that make you evil? Or do you try to still do good, and then you still end up being evil?
Mm-hmm.
Or you don't know, and the DM is sneaky, and they give you an option at some point, which seems like the right option, but it's not the right option. And you do something terrible.
A lot of really great roleplay possibilities from that role itself. So we're already off to a good start. Pick our reaction.
Okay, reactions.
How people react to your character.
Yeah, so this is that whole idea of I'm an outsider. How do people perceive me with my magic?
Already doing well.
Your neighbors hate and fear your power, causing them to shun you. This is sadly true in almost any society that I can think of. When you are different from the vast majority of people, God, this is relevant to the world today.
Oh.
It's not always a pleasant experience being that minority.
I mean, think about every time in film where you're in a non-magic universe and you are come across somebody that is magical. Do they love this person automatically? No, they are afraid and they try to kill them, usually.
Yeah, I mean, we can just look at the United States history and be like, oh, Salem, we saw these people with magic powers. They were wonderful.
Okay, moving on from real stuff. Let's get back to the good stuff. Xanathar's Guide.
Yep.
We're on to our supernatural marks. Another 3. One of your ears... As we said, we're getting over a cold. One of your ears is noticeably larger than the other.
I could see some players not loving this because I think a lot of people, when it comes to fantasy, like to imagine like this paragon, this perfect person that they get to be. And a lot of times that also involves physical perfection.
They want to be super beautiful.
Yeah, basically, or super badass looking. Having mismatched ears might bother someone, but once again, it's one of those things that kind of distinguishes you from people, and it kind of ties into that magical reaction to people. It's just like, oh, this person looks off. Why are they off? Oh, that's why, magic.
So even though it means that your character isn't asymmetrically beautiful 100%, it doesn't mean that it's not a really good opportunity for more roleplay opportunities.
Yeah. A lot of these are kind of cosmetic. Your eyes are an unusual color, such as red. I could see a lot of people kind of digging that, like thinking.
But I mean, tieflings already get that.
They do, but like even like within D&D books, like any people that were really into like the Dragonlance novels, there was Rastlin the Mage, and he had hourglass eyes. Like his eyes literally had hourglasses on them, and like that was so iconic. So like, it's cool when it's like that, but when your ears are different. Like, I mean, I'm just thinking like World of Warcraft Night Elf ear, and it's like, bam, way up here.
And then a tiny ear.
That would be really off-putting.
No wonder they treat you strangely.
All right. And lastly, we have Sign of Sorcery.
Man, 3 threes in a row.
Yeah, I think this die is weighted to 3s. I don't know why you would weight a die that way.
But I like this result, so we're going to keep it.
You sweat profusely while casting a spell, and for a few seconds thereafter. That seems legit, because casting magic is not like a simple thing, and it's like...
It's hard. It's hard work.
It's Dragon Ball Z. It's just you gotta power up
and release.
Insert joke. Or sound effect. We'll see.
I mean, others of that list are really interesting. One of them talks about your voice changing. One of them talks about the lights in the room get darker. And that can go with some of the more dark options
like
of the backstory.
When he like gets all scary on Frodo and like he grows and the dark room gets dark. It's like, oh man, Gandalf.
That could be your sorcerer.
What are you doing?
What you doing?
Power's power.
But there's a lot of great options on these tables. Yeah. So already we've rolled on 4 of the tables in this book.
There's a ton of fodder for like character ideas and even a little bit of DM stuff here that they can kind of sprinkle in. And it's like, oh yeah, people look at your ears and they look really confused. Like, I mean, maybe...
Yeah, I plan to use a lot of this stuff on upcoming episodes of Dragon Ballad.
Also, I just want to point out the art in this book.
It's beautiful.
I'll give a better picture in a second, but like, look at this guy. Like, oh, he's like floating and he's like golden.
That's the Divine Sorcerer.
Oh, this Tiefling.
The Shadow Sorcerer.
And the Storm Sorcerer.
The Storm Sorcerer is okay.
They could have gone like a few notches further with Storm Sorcerer on this picture.
Why not a Storm Sorcerer Genasi? That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
It's not the most optimal, but, you know, it's a lot of fun to play characters just because you want to, not because it's the best for that class.
No, it's something that I know when I go to choose characters, I try to find something that's interesting. I mean, I have done the whole optimization, and I still try to optimize within the confines of...
It's hard not to.
Of that class and that race, but, like... There's no reason why everybody has to be an elf or a half elf or a human. Like, and then, you know, you have your couple players who are like, dwarfs everything.
Dwarves are a lot of fun, though.
But, like, there are other races. And
there are.
Yeah.
So, I love the tiefling.
So I think sorcerers kind of get thrown into that half elf, human kind of area a lot because of charisma. And you occasionally get dragonborns. Couple others that get like a small bonus, but why not a half orc sorcerer?
Why not the love for half orcs?
Why not a halfling sorcerer? Although, do halflings get... I'm not positive on that.
No,
they don't get a bonus. Yeah,
not that I remember.
Well, I mean, you played one, so
I know, but I rolled the stats a while ago. All right, now let's jump into the specifics of our sorcerer that we rolled up. The first one is our Divine Soul.
All right, so we're going to do a little bit of discussion about what's in the book, but then we're also going to like kind of look back at the Unearthed Arcana and see what's different, what we like, what we didn't like from the transition from the Unearthed Arcana, and so forth. So a lot of what they've done is kind of just rename things. A lot of it's been just straight up converted. So in the book, in Xanathar's Guide to Everything, it's called the Divine Soul. Sounds nice, right? In the Unearthed Arcana, it was called the Favored Soul. Divine, I think, is more thematic to what they're trying to go for. Because ultimately the idea of this sorcerer is that in some way, somehow, divine magic has infused their being, whether that be from like a celestial, like gracing them with power, or some distant relative. Doesn't really matter. The end result is they have divine energy.
Basically, it's a fusion between sorcerer and cleric. For all the people that don't want to play a cleric. Yeah,
because... And I've never understood this, but almost everywhere we go, every table we sit at, people generally don't want to play clerics.
And clerics do so much more than just heal.
I mean,
so much more.
Clerics are probably my favorite class. And yeah, I mean, when your party goes down, they look at you. They're like, please heal me. and you're like, I'm almost dead to heal. And then they give you grief for it. But now you have an option where you can go, heal, and then you can be like, burn sorcery points, heal, and heal someone else. So, I mean, now you can dual cast Healing Word, you can dual cast Cure Light Wounds, as long as it's a single person target. Single person target. Because sorcerers get sorcery points. Alright, so first level ability for the Divine Soul. They get two things. They get Divine Magic, which is they get the option to pull spells from the Cleric spell list. Now, unlike the Cleric, who can like take a rest and pull from all of the spells every time they take a rest, the Sorcerer's locked to their level. So they can only trade out spells when they level up. But they have two spell lists. I can't think
of... But they can change every level.
And I can't think of any other subclass, any other class that has this ability. This is, in my opinion, a little powerful.
It's too much.
First level.
I think a way they could have handled this instead is give them half of the Cleric spell list to look at. Maybe up to level 5.
Well, they already have... Well, that's an option, like... Because 5th level spells, like, they're powerful, but they're not, like... I mean, you could have a Divine Spell Sorcerer, a Divine Soul, and they can cast Temple of the Gods.
I mean, let's be real. You're playing a Sorcerer Cleric, not a Cleric Sorcerer. I feel like the Sorcerer part should be more important than the Cleric, so giving them the whole Cleric list to take from is just way too much, especially at first level.
Well, that and they've shown in other subclasses and other classes, like Circle of the Land Druid. Oh, well, here you go. Here's some extra spells you can have. Or like the Warlocks. Here's some other spells you can have. If you want them, they're available to you, but they're not necessarily yours. So I don't understand why they don't have a little mini spell list of, Cure Light Wounds, Healing Word, Revivify, like give them the spells that, would be Radiant or Divine. Bless, like give them some of those nice buff spells that clerics get, but not the whole list. Like, why even play a cleric? Why play a life cleric? This guy can heal better than you. Another
option they could have done is that at a different point they divide based off of your if you're neutral, if you're good, if you're evil. They could have created little separate spell lists for those specific what's the word?
Alignments.
Alignment. Oh my goodness. Those specific alignments.
They call it affinity in the book, but it's alignment.
Alignment. So why not have like a list of 5 spells or 10 or however many per alignment? And that way you're giving them more spells to choose from, but it's more specific to the character they're playing.
Yep. I actually kind of like the idea that they gave like... Part of this ability is they get a bonus spell depending on their alignment.
So even more spells.
So I kind of like that. I can't think of another class, once again, that has this. But if you're good, you get Cure Wounds. That's pretty handy. If you're evil, you get Inflict Wounds. Makes sense. Lots of fun. Also, great spell. Like, really powerful.
Oh, yeah.
Law. If you're lawful, Bless. Wonderful spell. I use it in, like, every game. Because free hit points. I mean, really. Like, why heal people when I can heal them before they've even been hurt? Like, that just saves me time. Chaos. Bane. I don't love Bane. Like, thematically it makes sense. I don't like using it. I'm not a fan. And
they could have done something different, like Crown of Madness, maybe.
Yeah.
If they're going for chaos-based, like, there could have been a different thematic choice.
I mean, I think they even... We're going to do a video on the spells, but I think they even included some, like, low-level fear spells. Like, why wouldn't you throw a fear spell in there or something that, like... Or, like, Infestation, the cantrip, like, makes them, like, randomly run in a direction. Like...
That's more chaotic.
Bane,
And it fits better with the other spells, because the other spells that are offered are pretty good, but then to throw Bane in there is kind of like, who wants to do that?
Like, if I was a dungeon mastering, I might throw that at my players, mostly because it frustrates them. But as a player, I'd rather do damage than be like, well, you might hit with a d4 less. The swing is just not strong. Neutrality. Protection from evil and good. That's actually a really good spell.
That's a good spell.
It has a lot of uses. I don't see it come up very often in games, but that's probably on the player's fault, because it's really good. It does a lot of things.
I've thought about using it with my paladin. It just hasn't happened yet.
Okay, so not only do they get 2 spell list and a bonus spell, but they get another really good thing at first level. They get this thing called Favored by the Gods.
Which is super good.
If you fail a saving throw or an attack roll, you can be favored by the gods and roll 2 d4s and add that result to the total. You can only do that, I think, like once
for short or long rest.
Short or long rest. That's pretty powerful. I
think that's way too powerful for a first level ability.
I mean, just off the top of my head, I know that the 7th level Warlock ability for the Infernal, they get something similar at 6th level, called like Dark One's Own Luck. They get to add a d10 for the same kind of thing at 6th level.
But
at 6th
rolling
level,
a 2d4 is almost better than rolling. It is better than rolling a d8.
Yeah,
because at minimal you get a 2.
Yeah.
Whereas with a d8 you get a 1.
The swing is better. That's why most people pick, like, great swords versus great axes, because in the end, great swords are going to do more damage.
So I like the fact that they threw it in there, but it should have been way later in the character development. It's just too powerful for first level.
At least compared to some of the other classes and subclasses.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. It makes sense thematically. I mean, I can imagine it's like, oh, the hand of fate guides you right. Like, you see movies and, like, some angel is there and it's just like, no, aim here. So it makes sense. So then we get the 6th level spell, or 6th level class feature. This one's different. In the Unearthed Arcana, we had a thing called Blessed Countenance. This once again plays in that whole idea that players like to feel beautiful. And, like, this is kind of like a throwaway ability in the Unearthed Arcana, so I can see why they kind of, like, fixed it. I liked the fact that they were like, well, let's throw a social thing in. So basically, you're transformed. You become otherworldly in a beautiful, youthful, or imposing way. And your proficiency bonus for charisma checks double. So, like, it is powerful, like, if you're a charismatic character, which sorcerers typically are, because charisma is your spellcasting modifier.
Which is great for roleplay.
And getting a double proficiency, no matter what the class, is really powerful. So, like, it's not a bad ability, and for 6th level, it kind of makes sense, because that's kind of like one of those, like, throwaway levels in some of the classes, where it's kind of like, oh, here's this cool little thing you can do, but it's not going to, like, make you super powerful. So instead, they replaced it with something really powerful.
Empowered healing.
So, you want to read that?
Starting at 6th level, the divine energy coursing through you can empower healing spells. Whenever you or an ally within 5 feet of you rolls dice to determine the number of hit points a spell restores, you can spend a sorcery point to reroll any number of those dice once, providing you aren't incapacitated. You can use this feature only once per turn. Once per turn!
Alright, so, I mean, I'm kind of split on this, because in my experience, players don't like using resources to heal. And this uses more resources that they could then use to empower their spells.
I mean, I like that it's a different way to use sorcery points.
That is nice.
But once per turn, really?
Should have been like you're equal to your charisma modifier, maybe?
Yeah. That would be a nice way to make sure that's not OP.
Because generally that means you can only do it like, 3, 4, maybe 5 times between
Well, this
a long
is 6th
rest.
level, so 6. Which is still a lot.
Also, I kind of wish they limited it to other people healing. Because if, like, this is all about healing, I'm going to heal people. This is the healing sorcerer.
Shouldn't you be theoretically healing other people? It's like with the Bard class where you can't inspire yourself until way further along.
Maybe tie that into an ability later. Be like, now you can heal yourself with more effectiveness. I don't know. I'm split on it.
You feel the need to heal others. It sounded better in my head.
Well, I mean, like, it could be an extremely powerful ability. It also might not. But, like, if you paired this with, any other class that can heal, like, you can... Is this during a reaction? No, it's a bonus action.
Bonus action.
No. No, it says whenever. It's not even once a reaction. Like, so if, like, I'm in a party full of people that have healing magic, every time they cast heal, I can be like, do better, do better, do better.
You can choose how many number of dice to re-roll.
So
it's a little too much, in my opinion.
I mean, it's a really strong sorcerer path. So then we also have the 14th level ability, which is different. In the Unearthed Arcana, at 14th level, you become immune to disease, poison damage, and poison condition. This is
basically like a paladin.
This is a common thing with this, like, you get it with, like, 11th level abilities and 12th level abilities and 14th level abilities, where they kind of like, well, you become immune to this and this and this. And it's, like, stuff that's, like, useful.
But that doesn't come up in game a lot.
I mean, poison
does, but not disease.
Disease doesn't come up a whole
Typically.
lot.
It depends on your dungeon master for sure.
And, like, the resources for getting rid of disease, by the time that you are 14th level, you have the resources for that. So it's like, oh, lesser restoration, 2nd level spell. Oh, lay on hands. Like, it just depends on your party. But, like, I mean, immune to disease is nice. I mean, they're passive abilities that are always on.
Yeah.
It's curious to me, like, you got this divine being, like, why wouldn't you give them resistance to necrotic? Or maybe resistance to fire?
To radiant?
Or radiant? Like, I don't know. So I get why they replaced this. I'm sure they got a lot of feedback from people going, this is stupid.
Most
Make
likely.
It better.
Well, they replaced it with something that's a lot of fun.
All right.
We have otherworldly wings.
Goes back to that cosmetic thing.
People want to be an angel. Starting at 14th level, you can use a bonus action to manifest a pair of spectral wings from your back. While the wings are present, you have a flying speed of 30 feet, and the wings last until you are incapacitated, you die, or dismiss them as a bonus action.
So they're permanently on.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you can literally just walk around with wings. And people be like, can I touch your wings? You'd be like, that's weird.
I feel like it should only last for like an hour or so. Because then you could just fly everywhere, avoid traps. It's a little much. But what I do like is that it says that the affinity that you chose for your divine magic affects the way that the wings look.
She likes it.
So it says that you have eagle wings if you're good or law.
Makes sense.
Bat wings if you're evil or chaos. And dragonfly wings for neutrality.
Which are all flavorful and cool. But, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when I play charismatic characters, I tend to make them kind of, this goes back to playing tropes. I like charlatans. And to me, if I was playing, my edgelord character,
Lone
I wouldn't like be running around with bat wings because people are gonna like look at me and go, "Oh, that dude's evil." But if I have a choice and I can run around with eagle wings, be like, "Look at me, I'm such a good person. I got wings." It can play into my deception.
So what could have been cool instead for characters like Dylan, players like Dylan, is maybe have one of those tables that you can roll on if you don't want to choose outright. Or, I mean, ultimately you have power over your character, so you could just talk with the DM and say, hey, this is how I want to look, and see how that works out in your game.
I mean, I think it's valid if you're playing a duplicitous character that a DM would, let go roll with that. Makes sense. Or,
because the ultimate role is to have fun, really.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could still always just use, like, alter self and be like, I'm going to change my bat wings into eagle wings, but it's like, that's a cost. Might be worth it. You never know. Alright, so, moving on. We get our capstone ability. And the theme is really powerful. It is the same as it was in the Unearthed Arcana. They cleaned up the language a little bit. But as a bonus action, you have if you have fewer than half of your hit points, which as a sorcerer, chances are you don't have a ton of hit points, D6 per level. When you have fewer than half, you can regain a number of hit points equal to half of your hit points. You can't use that again until you finish a long rest. So at least it's tied to a long rest.
But still.
I mean, we were just kind of like doing some quick math in our head earlier when we were looking at this. And like, if the sorcerer doesn't have any constitution mods, then he has like, 80 hit points at level 20?
Something like that.
So 40 hit points of healing. Nothing to sneeze at. That's still really pretty potent. But if you add any constitution mod, like, it can be pretty drastic how that affects the amount of healing done. And there's only a couple spells that large scale heal that amount.
And typically as a sorcerer, you put your second biggest stat in constitution because you're...
Or dex.
But the book specifically advises constitution. So if you were to add if you had 4 for your mod for constitution, that adds almost double your health by the time that you're level 18. So now you're looking at like 70 points of healing in one round. That's insane. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking really powerful magic that they can also cast
on themselves.
Yeah. I think like heal is like a 7th level spell or something, and it's like 100 hit points, and like he can just do it. He can just do it.
So overall with Divine Soul, I think it's a really neat idea, but I do worry that it's way overpowered, especially when we take a look at the other 2 sorcerer paths coming up.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit about if you want to play a Divine Sorcerer. I'm a little split on the idea of letting someone play a Divine Sorcerer. It's in the book. It's legal. I mean, I probably would let them play it. I don't think it's going to break the game. It's some strong abilities, but...
Just throw stronger monsters.
It's true.
That's my solution.
Like, I would want them to have a reason why they want to play the Divine Soul versus, oh man, this is mechanically powerful. I want to play that. I mean, if you have players like that at your table, and that's how you guys play, that's cool. You do you. But I like story, and I would need some kind of story that either they could tell me or that I could insert into their character. And the whole idea of this, like, even within a party, this party dynamic of there being a cleric and there being this sorcerer. Like, the cleric has devoted their entire life to service to their god. And they pray to their god, and their god gives them this divine gift. Divine gift, whatever. Power. And then the sorcerer's just like, oh yeah, my granddaddy was an angel.
I was just born with this.
And, we were also talking about this a little bit earlier about, like, what if that happened today in our world, and suddenly there was this guy walking around on water, maybe, with magic powers, and he went up to the church and was like, you guys are doing pretty good work, but this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. I can show you how to do it right.
Would the church really accept this divine soul? So this could really add interesting developments in your campaign.
Between players and between you as the DM and your player.
I mean, maybe the cleric and the sorcerer have kind of like a Gimli Legolas thing with healing.
Yeah.
Or maybe...
That'd be something to see. I want to heal more. No, I heal more.
Or maybe it leads into more political and intrigue sessions where you're in towns that are very religious and how that comes up with roleplay.
I want to tie that in. Like, if someone played this in my game, I would want religion to be a central part of that game.
So in that aspect, I really love the idea of this character.
There's a lot of...
There's a lot of good stuff.
There's a lot of story here. Potential.